Welcome to Kestrel's Foods, Level 2 Food Safety in Manufacturing. This course will take you through the importance of food safety, the hazards in food safety, illnesses, bacterial growth, personal hygiene, premises and equipment, cleaning and disinfection, food pests, food storage, food safety control, and food safety culture. The importance of food safety. Good food safety standards allow the consumer to enjoy their food without illness, injury, or other problems. Poor food safety can lead to serious injury or illnesses to the consumer, even death. We must do everything possible to produce food that is safe to eat. Poor food safety threatens our health, reputation, profits, and our job. Food safety leads to satisfied customers, a good reputation, less wastage, pleasant workplace, job security, and compliance with the law. Good food safety practice protects everyone. Food becomes harmful when it is contaminated. This can be when it contains something that shouldn't be there. Eating contaminated food can lead to serious food poisoning or illness, or even death. We have a legal, ethical, and economic responsibility to keep food safe and free from contamination. As a food handler, you are responsible for doing everything you can to keep food safe. Hazards can be physical, chemical, or biological. Physical food hazards include items such as hair, string, tape, jewellery, dirt, dust, and pests. These physical contaminations are often easy to spot. Some physical hazards are naturally present in the food, such as stems in fruit, leaves or stalks, seeds, nutshells, mud or dirt, pulses or nuts. The consumer expects their food to be free from all physical contamination. This is backed up by law. Serious injury could result from consuming physical contaminants, such as broken teeth, internal bleeding, or choking. Food handlers are a major source of physical contamination. This is why we must wear suitable protective clothing and must not wear jewellery. Packaging also creates a source of physical contamination. This can be things like loose tape, torn plastic, staples, or cardboard. This is why we must remove outer packaging in a separate area from open food and open inner packaging correctly. Poorly maintained buildings, equipment, and machinery are another source of contamination, such as flaking paint, loose screws, nuts, or bolts, and any metal fragments. Poor cleaning can cause physical contamination from dirt, food waste, rubbish, and pests. Chemical food hazards can be items such as cleaning chemicals, pest bait, maintenance chemicals, dissolved metals, industrial or agricultural products. Harmful chemicals can contaminate food in many ways. Pesticides, fertilizers and weed killer residues, incorrect quantities of ingredients, careless use of lubricants or cleaning products, and undiluted cleaning chemicals could react with surfaces and equipment. Chemical poisoning can show similar symptoms to food poisoning, such as vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. Sometimes, symptoms can take months or years to develop and can be life-threatening. Our aim is to prevent physical and chemical food hazards. To do this, we ask that you play your part in preventing contamination by correctly following appropriate food safety measures, such as sieving, checking, and cleaning. Be on the lookout for physical contaminants in food at every stage of production and deal with them as appropriate and as soon as possible. Report any hazards that you spot to your supervisor and work safely with cleaning chemicals and rinse thoroughly. Allergens. These are a hazard to anyone with an allergy to that food, and they can cause allergic reactions, and these can be fatal. Common allergens include peanuts, nuts, milk, soya, sesame seeds, egg, mustard, and gluten. Care must be taken to avoid accidental contamination by foods linked to allergies. Biological food hazards include bacteria and viruses that can cause illnesses, mold, and yeast on food, parasite, bodily fluids, and pests. Bacteria is a biological hazard and is the main cause of illness. Bacteria is a microorganism that is so small that you need a microscope to see it. On one of our fingertips alone, there are between 39,000 and 46 million potential bacteria colonies. This is why we must wash our hands regularly and thoroughly. Even when a food is heavily contaminated with bacteria, it can be impossible to smell, taste, or see the contamination. Bacteria can be classed into 3 types: helpful, pathogenic, and spoilage. Helpful bacteria helps farmers to grow crops. It can make foods like yogurts. It can treat sewage, produce medicines, and manufacture cleaning products. Pathogenic bacteria is responsible for most cases of food poisoning and foodborne illnesses. And spoilage bacteria causes food to perish rapidly and go bad. Pathogenic bacteria can come from contact with raw food or food that hasn't been properly cooked. Water, usually water from outside or stagnant. Soil carries a lot of bacteria, and food must be clean and free from soil or mud. And people are a major source of pathogenic bacteria. Bacteria collects on your skin, ears, nose, throat, and hair. Cuts, spots, and boils are also dangerous sources of bacteria. Food handlers can spread dangerous bacteria by touching their faces, hair, or other body parts before touching food, not washing their hands after going to the toilet or handling raw food, and coughing or sneezing near food. Pathogenic bacteria can travel in dust and dirt in the air and settle on open food. It is essential that all food is covered or sealed until it is needed. Pests such as flies, spiders, and mice all carry bacteria inside or on them and could contaminate open food. Anything that touches food is a potential vehicle for bacterial contamination. Vehicles for contamination include the hands, work surfaces, containers and buckets, equipment, utensils and soiled PPE, and machinery that hasn't been cleaned properly. When handling food, you should not touch your hair or eat or drink. Follow strict personal hygiene habits when working with food. Wash your hands frequently and thoroughly, and make sure all your equipment surfaces, equipment machinery, and utensils are clean before handling food. Spoilage bacteria. Spoilage is also known as decomposition, rotting, perishing, deteriorating, and going bad. Spoilage bacteria can contaminate foods in the same way as pathogenic bacteria. These bacteria cause food to rapidly go off. This damages the quality of the food, reduces its shelf life, and can cause illness if eaten. Bacteria reproduces by multiplying. One bacterium will divide into two bacterium, 2 will divide into 4, 4 into 8, and 8 into 16. Every 10 to 20 minutes, under the right conditions, millions of pathogenic bacteria can be produced from one original cell in a matter of hours. The ideal conditions for bacteria to grow include food, moisture, warmth, and time. Other biological hazards, including viruses, parasites, and natural poisons. Viruses are carried on food and water. The main source of viruses are sewage and polluted water. Parasites live in or on other organisms, and parasites are usually only removed when the food is cooked thoroughly. Naturally poisonous foods must be handled carefully. These include red kidney beans, almonds, and cherry stones. Everyone who deals with food at any stage has a responsibility to stay alert to biological hazards and to prevent contamination. If you spot something or suspect an issue, report it to your supervisor as soon as possible. There are 2 types of illnesses from eating contaminated food. This includes food poisoning and foodborne illnesses. A growing number of people are also affected by food allergies. Food poisoning is caused by pathogenic bacteria living on the food and harmful substances such as chemicals, poisons, and toxins. Foodborne illnesses are caused by harmful microorganisms in the food or drink being consumed. Bacteria will cause food poisoning when it has multiplied to a certain level. Large numbers of pathogenic bacteria are needed to cause food poisoning, but very small numbers of pathogenic microorganisms can cause foodborne illnesses. The most common symptoms of food poisoning are abdominal pain, diarrhea, vomiting, and nausea. These can all be life-threatening. Foodborne illnesses are caused by pathogenic microorganisms that are carried by food and water. Symptoms of foodborne illnesses can be similar to food poisoning, but may also include paralysis and kidney failure. Some people are particularly at risk from food poisoning or foodborne illnesses, and these include the very young, very old, pregnant, sick, or recovering from illness. Staphylococcus aureus is a form of food poisoning. The source of this is the human body, especially the skin, nose, mouth, cuts, and boils. It can be transferred to food by touching food with your hands. Abdominal pain or cramps, vomiting, low temperature, and potentially fatal would be the symptoms if you consume this, and these can come between 1 and 6 hours from the time of consumption and can last for 3 days. Escherichia coli, also known as E. coli, is another foodborne illness. The source of this can be from human and animal gut, sewage, water, and raw meat. It can be transferred to food by touching food with hands. It can be contaminated by raw or uncooked meat, and also contaminated by water. The symptoms would include abdominal pain, fever, vomiting, diarrhea, kidney damage or failure, and it can be potentially fatal. The symptoms can be onset from 12 to 24 hours, and these can last for 12 days or more. Another foodborne illness is the norovirus. This virus can come from humans, pigs, or cattle. It can be transferred by food or drink, and a very low dose can cause infection. The symptoms can be severe vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, fever, nausea, or dehydration. These can come 10 to 50 hours after consumption, and they can last from 12 hours to 2 weeks. Infections for further 2 days. Do not return to work until 48 hours of being symptom-free. Control by washing hands and work surfaces regularly. Hand contact surface and toilets kept thoroughly clean and disinfected. There was once a norovirus outbreak in the Craigavon Hospital. To control this, the 2 wards that were affected were quarantined from the rest of the hospital. No new patients were allowed to enter, and they were redirected to a new ward. Full infection prevention and control measures were implemented, and the situation was under constant review. Food allergies are affecting an increasing amount of people. Symptoms can be life-threatening. Allergic reactions to food make the immune system react as if it were under attack. Allergenic foods and ingredients need to be separated from foods that are intended to be allergen-free. Consumers need accurate information about food allergens, and this must be communicated on the packaging. Personal hygiene. It is good practice to take a shower or a bath every day and start work clean and tidy. This will help protect food from contamination by removing some of the bacteria on your skin and hair, including those that thrive on stale, perspiration, and causing body odour. Avoid excessive use of toiletries like perfumes and deodorants, as these can taint some sensitive foods. Hand washing. Good hand washing is essential. Always wash your hands before starting work. During work, it is important to wash your hands as often as necessary to keep them clean. Always wash your hands after handling allergens, visiting the toilet, coughing or sneezing into your hands or a tissue, touching your hair or face, cleaning or touching chemicals, handling rubbish, waste and bins, and eating, drinking or smoking at break times. You must wash your hands in a designated hand wash sink only. Use hot water and soap, working the soap into your hands vigorously for 20 seconds to remove the bacteria, not forgetting your wrists, back of your hands and in between your fingers. Rinse your hands before drying using paper towels and apply hand sanitizer. Cuts, spots, and other skin conditions may carry pathogenic bacteria. Cover spots and wounds with blue metal detectable plasters supplied by the company. A glove may also be required. Nail polish must not be worn when handling food, including clear polishes. False nails and eyelashes are not permitted. The appropriate protective clothing must be worn at all times, including safety shoes, hairnet, overalls, earplugs, and gloves if required. If disposable gloves are used, these must be thrown away after use. Reusable gloves must be cleaned and dried before and after use. Hair must be fully contained within your hairnet and your ears covered. Jewellery, medicines, and outdoor clothing must be left in lockers or separate areas away from food production areas. Never dry your hands on your clothing. Never touch your nose or bite your fingernails. Never cough or sneeze over food. Never spit. Never lick your fingertips to make it easier to pick something up or to separate flimsy materials. You must always tell your supervisor if you have been or currently suffering from foodborne illnesses or food poisoning. If experiencing any of these symptoms, tell your ear, eye or nose discharge, septic cuts, wounds or other skin conditions or infections. You could be a carrier of a pathogenic organism and not show any symptoms. Let your supervisor know if you have been in contact with anybody else suffering from food poisoning or foodborne illnesses. Premises and equipment. Food premises should be designed so that they help prevent contamination. Keep clean and dirty tasks apart. Help prevent pest infestation. Minimize risks from food hazards. Workflow is the planned route for food, food handlers, and rubbish through a food premises. This workflow should be adhered to in order to safeguard from contamination from when it arrives on site to when it is dispatched as a final product. Minimize journeys of food handlers around the food area. Premises and equipment. Walls, ceilings, floors, doors and windows must be kept in good condition, durable, impervious, smooth and easy to clean. Food equipment must be durable, impervious, smooth, resistant to cracking, chipping and easy to clean. The design of the whole food premises should allow staff to easily keep it clean. Cleaning is the process of making something free from dirt and contamination. Detergents dissolve grease and remove dirt. Disinfectants reduce bacteria to a lower, safe level. And sanitizers are a combination of detergent and disinfectant. The stages of wet cleaning is to protect, cover and remove the food and packaging from contamination before starting to clean. Prepare. Remove any loose dirt from the surface. Clean. Wash with detergent, hot water and brush or cloth. Contact time. If single stage detergent or sanitizer. Rinse. Hot water and a clean cloth must be used for rinsing. Disinfect. Do not forget the contact time. Complete a final rinse using a clean water and hot water. And dry. Allow the item to air dry or use clean paper towels. Cloths can become contaminated with bacteria easily and transfer bacteria everywhere they're used. Make sure they are clean and dispose of them after use. Empty rubbish bins regularly and do not allow them to overfill. Bin bags should never be left on the floor or lying around outside. Food pests are any creature that lives on or in human food, causing damage and/or contamination. Food premises attract pests because they contain almost everything that pests need to survive, such as food, moisture, water, warmth, and shelter. It can be a source of biological and physical hazards. Bacteria on the body and legs, in saliva and in droppings, and in eggs, fur, nests, and dead bodies. To prevent food pests, you must keep the food covered at all times. Store the food off the floor. Never leave food outside unprotected. Check deliveries carefully. Check your stored food and ingredients regularly. Report any damage packaging to your supervisor. This can be chewed, torn, or pierced. Clean as you go and keep doors and windows closed. Report any signs of pests to your supervisor immediately. This can be dead bodies of insects, rodents, and birds. If you see droppings, any unusual smells, scratching, peeking, or gnawing sounds, chewed pipes, cables, and fittings, damaged packaging, eggs, larvae, pupa, feathers, fur, and nesting material, paw or claw prints, smears, and rat runs. Do not interfere with pest prevention equipment. Food storage. Spoilage is a natural process of aging that makes food unacceptable to consumers. Spoilage is caused by spoilage bacteria, mold, and yeast. Spoilage can be accelerated by careless handling, inappropriate storage, and pest infestation. Spoiled food can be recognised by discoloration. It can be dark or pale in patches. There can be visible mould. It can smell different and unpleasant. It could have a different texture, a different flavour, and it could be blown or bulging packaging. Food handlers have a legal responsibility to keep food safe, so it's important to identify spoiled food and be able to store food safely. Food must carry a best before date. Food storage. Deliveries of food must be checked for condition and shelf life. Within the best before date, free from pest infestation, in clean, dry and non-damaged packaging, and no signs of spoilage. Storage areas must be kept clean and disinfected. Food should be safely stored once delivery is checked. Separate allergens in storage. Handle with care. Avoid damaging the packaging. Keep food covered and protected from contamination. Store foods off the floor, such as pallets, shelves and trolleys, and use clean, dry containers if required. When storing food, if there are any spills, clean them up immediately. Check food regularly and always before using it. Rotate stock. This means the first in is the first out. Report any signs of pests to your supervisor. Unacceptable food might be returned to the supplier or destroyed. Cleaning chemical and materials must be stored separately from food storage areas. Dry food must be kept in cool, dry, and well-ventilated conditions. Food safety control. Food legislation states that food handlers must keep themselves clean, keep their workplace clean, wear appropriate, clean, washable, protective clothing, protect food from contamination, and tell their employer if they have any symptoms of food poisoning or certain illnesses and conditions. The food legislation states that food handlers must not do anything that would expose food to contamination, sell food that is unfit for human consumption, sell food with expired date mark, work with food if they have symptoms of food poisoning or illnesses with similar symptoms, until their employer or doctor say that it is safe for them to do so. You must be trained to carry out your working tasks. Training can be a mixture of formal and informal instruction. A record is kept of all training, and you may be required to refresh or repeat some training periodically. Food safety control. HACCP stands for Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points. It is a food safety system required by law that ensures that what should happen in the workplace does happen. All hazards to food are assessed and controls are put in place. This could be metal detectors, checkwires, sieves, and monitoring systems are in place and review this periodically. You must play your part in spotting hazards. Follow the instructions given to you and report all food hazards, faults, and suspicions of contamination. Food safety legislation is enforced by environmental health officers or trading standards officers. They can enter and inspect the premises, investigate any issues, and send companies to court for breaking food safety laws. We must cooperate with the enforcement officers. Breaking food safety laws could result in fines, prison sentences, closures of the business, ban from working with food, or a criminal record. Food safety culture is the collective attitude, beliefs, and behaviours of all food handlers, supervisors, managers, and senior management towards food safety. It is our aim to do the right thing every time in relation to food safety. It involves the activities across all areas of the business. It requires good leadership, employee involvement, training, communication, measured activities, competence, and ownership of safety. It is a BRC requirement to have this in place. Good food safety is everyone's responsibility.